The Supreme Court has decided that schools can ban transgender girls from competing on girls' sports teams based on biological sex. The decision affects how schools across the country handle transgender athletes and raises fundamental questions about who gets protected by civil rights laws and the Constitution. Nine Robes uses nonpartisan, everyday language to focus on the facts of what the Supreme Court is saying. Here, you'll find clear, concise summaries of every Supreme Court opinion, stripped of legalese and clickbait headlines. Each post breaks down the facts, explains the court's reasoning, and highlights the crucial details that often go unnoticed. It's not just about what the court decided. It's about why those decisions matter, to give you a deeper understanding of the cases that define our nation's legal landscape. These summaries are generated by AI. Be careful and consult reputable sources when in doubt. Two cases reached the Supreme Court together. In West Virginia, a transgender girl named BPJ was blocked from joining her middle school's cross-country and track teams under a state law called the Save Women's Sports Act. In Idaho, a transgender woman named Lindsay Haycox challenged a similar law. Both girls argued these laws violated federal anti-discrimination protections and their constitutional right to equal treatment. Lower courts disagreed with each other, so the Supreme Court stepped in to settle the question. Can states ban transgender girls from girls' sports teams? West Virginia argued its law simply follows the federal law already that allows separating sports teams by biological sex. The state said the law does not target transgender people specifically because sports competition depends on physical biology, not how someone identifies. The federal government agreed, saying the word sex in the 1972 federal law means biological sex, period. BPJ's lawyers made a different argument. They said the Constitution protects individuals, not just groups. BPJ is genuinely different from a typical boy because she never went through male puberty. Instead, she went through female puberty through medical treatment. Excluding her means she has no team to play on at all. Her attorney made a striking concession. If the facts showed BPJ actually had a physical advantage, she should lose the case. The justices asked tough questions. One asked whether the government had spoken clearly enough about what schools must do. Another wondered whether defining sex to exclude transgender people secretly creates a rule based on gender identity. The Chief Justice suggested the real question was whether BPJ needed to prove she deserved an exception to the rule. Justice Kavanaugh wrote the majority opinion, joined by 5 other justices. The court ruled that federal law allows schools to maintain girls' sports teams based on biological sex, and that the Constitution permits states to limit those teams to biological females. On federal law, the court said the word sex meant biological sex when Congress passed the law in 1972. Federal regulations allowing separate teams by sex were based on physical differences between males and females. The court rejected the argument that medical treatment like puberty blockers or hormones should force schools to make exceptions. Drawing a line based on biology is reasonable, the court said, given physical differences and concerns about safety and fair competition. On the Constitution, the court applied the standard used for sex-based rules. That standard states the government must show the law serves an important goal and is substantially related to achieving it. The court found that safety and fair competition are important goals, and that limiting girls' sports to biological females serves those goals. The court rejected 3 arguments from the challengers. First, a law does not need to serve the government's interests in every single case. Second, even if a general rule is acceptable, it should apply to transgender girls who have taken puberty blockers or hormones. Third, the laws do not unconstitutionally discriminate against transgender people because they classify based on biology, not gender identity. Justice Sotomayor, joined by 2 others, agreed BPJ's federal law claim fails, but she strongly disagreed on the Constitution. The majority decided the constitutional question without letting lower courts first gather facts on the key disputed issue. Do transgender girls who never went through male puberty and receive medical treatment actually have any athletic advantage? Sotomayor argued the court should have let trial courts answer that question first. She also argued the majority weakened the constitutional standard for sex-based rules. Prior cases struck down sex-based rules that were accurate for most people, but not for a clearly identifiable group that was genuinely different. The majority's new approach requires a challenger to identify an especially large subgroup before courts will question whether a rule fits its purpose. Justice Sotomayor pointed out this reasoning mirrors arguments the court had previously rejected. Justice Jackson added that the majority's sweeping statement that sex can only mean biological sex closes the door too quickly. She noted that discrimination law already recognizes that penalizing people for not conforming to gender stereotypes is a form of sex discrimination. This decision applies specifically to school sports. The court emphasized that employment discrimination law works differently and that prior workplace cases may not apply here. The principle that discriminating against someone for being transgender is sex discrimination remains alive outside sports. The constitutional ruling is more significant. The majority applied a weaker version of the standard courts normally use for sex-based rules. This shields categorical legislative decisions from case-by-case constitutional challenges in sports and possibly beyond. The court left several questions open. States that currently allow transgender participation are not directly affected. The court also did not decide what level of constitutional protection applies to laws that classify people based on transgender status specifically, and the majority resolved the constitutional question without any factual findings on whether medical treatment eliminates physical advantages, treating that as legally irrelevant. The Supreme Court has decided that schools can use biological sex as the rule for girls' sports teams. This does not mean transgender people have no civil rights protections elsewhere. It means that in school sports specifically, the court believes states can draw the line at biology. Whether that line is fair, whether it reflects actual science, and whether it should apply in other contexts remains unsettled. Find us online at 9robes.ai. That's the number, 9robes.ai. Like and share this podcast with friends that like to be informed. 9robes provides AI summaries of U.S. Supreme Court cases. AI makes mistakes. People make mistakes too. We genuinely do our best to provide you with the most accurate summaries, but our best sometimes includes errors.